Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you very much for coming to the 97th Assembly District Candidate Forum this evening. It's great to see so many people show up tonight. I'm John Nacy, and I'm the chair of the Republican Party for Waukesha County, and it's my pleasure to serve as the moderator for this evening's forum. Tonight's forum is sponsored by the Republican Women of Waukesha County and the Waukesha County Republican Party South Central Branch. We need to give some special thanks and a few announcements before we get going, but special thanks first to Robin Moore, President of the Republican Women, Deb Bowers, the chair of the South Central Branch Club. She had a prior engagement and unfortunately can't be with us tonight. And Kathy Waller, our Executive Director of the Republican Party of Waukesha County. Ladies, would you be recognized for all your work? Not members of the Republican Women or of the Branch Club. I'm sure you're all members of the party. There are information out on the table out there. We welcome you to become a member. They're great organizations, of course. We also want to thank the Citizens Bank of Mukwonago for making this beautiful facility available for our use. They wanted you all to know it's available to the public. You can contact them downstairs during regular business banking hours for details as to how to reserve the same. Turn up the music. Thank you. You want me on?
Yes.
Okay. I was trying to talk loud because we don't have the candidates mic tonight or the people who are going to ask the questions. So again, thanks to Citizens Bank, and if you have any use, any organization, many of you have been here before, I'm sure, but if you are affiliated with any organization that could use the facility, please let them know. I have a few preliminary matters that must be addressed before we get going. First and foremost, this is a forum. It's not a debate per se. This is not an opportunity for this is an opportunity. It is an opportunity for you to get to know the candidates and their positions. Per our rules, there'll be no name calling, personal attacks. The candidates aren't even going to talk to each other. They're going to talk to you. The purpose is for them to have an opportunity to tell them about you and not to get into it. So sorry, it's not going to be like a presidential debate if that's what you were hoping for. Similarly, although many of you are here to support your candidate, which is great, we're not going to have any applause, we're not going to have jeering, we're not going to have booing, we're not at the Capitol. So, if you can't follow that, we'll just politely ask you, to leave. And so I'm sure you all understand. Keith Best has agreed to be the sergeant at arms. If I can't persuade you to behave, I'm sure Keith can. So, the candidates tonight have been provided with a list of topics that the questions will deal with, as well as a random order that they'll be asked to respond to each of the questions in. So if there's a lot of jumping around, that's because we didn't think it was fair to start on one side every time and start on the other side. So it is going to be a little bit of jumping around. And they're going to do that for the introductory statements, the questions, and the closing remarks. They have not actually seen the final questions, obviously the ones that you wrote that we hope to get to, or the ones that we prepared for tonight. And Robin and Kathy, who you've met, will be asking the actual questions. I almost fully expected that some person in a suit with a locked briefcase was going to enter the room at any moment and give us the questions, because we haven't seen the questions yet. They've been pretty secretive about these questions. So if you candidates got them, I haven't figured out how you could have gotten them, because they weren't released to anyone. So ladies, do you have the questions? Okay, so nobody's coming in here with them. We're also going to impose strict time limits, as the candidates have been advised. And Kathy Madden from the Waukesha County Clerk of Courts has generously agreed to serve as our timekeeper tonight. Thank you, Kathy. If you want to be recognized, thank you very much. So again, thank you all for coming. Let's sit back, relax, and learn something about the candidates. I'll now introduce the candidates. Please acknowledge where you're sitting, although we have names for you when your name is called. And I think this is the only time we're going to do it in alphabetical order all night long. I thought I'd do it once, just, So Scott Allen, welcome. Joe Van. Kathleen Cummings. Aaron Perry. Brandon Rossman. And Vince Cavada. So, thank you all candidates for coming. Obviously, we can't have a forum without you tonight. And I know you're busy campaigning and you've taken time out of your busy schedule to be here, and we do appreciate it. So now we'll begin the forum. We'll have each of the candidates give a 2-minute introduction of themselves, and they've got the order in front of them. And per that order, Brandon's going to go first.
Thanks, John. Hi, my name is Brandon Roser, candidate for the State Assembly in Waukesha. Thanks for all coming out tonight. I hope after the forum tonight, if you haven't already decided who you're going to vote for, you'll get a chance to hear a little bit about myself, my family, my ideas, and why I'm the best candidate to represent Waukesha at the state level. First off, I want to introduce my wife, Dr. Karen Roser. Karen, stand up for a moment, just say hello. She's my support during this campaign. She's also expecting her second daughter in a few weeks, so we're looking forward to that after the election. But Karen maintains her family practice clinic in the area, and I went to Milwaukee School of Engineering. She went to Marquette and then the medical college, and we make our home. I could see my house up that window at the water tower at Deer Path in Manuka Park, and we love Waukesha. I'm running, and we'll get a chance to talk about more of the issues, but I'm running because I think Waukesha needs a fresh start. Things that are important to me relate to jobs, taxes, and health care. And we'll have a little bit of a chance to detail some of my plans for why I think I'm the best conservative candidate to implement those ideas. When the race opened up earlier this spring, late winter, I have tenured private sector experience in the healthcare industry, and I thought that that would be the best background that would be needed in Madison to work with Governor Walker and the legislature, bring good jobs back to Waukesha, working with local job creators. And that was something that drew me into the race. Also, having a 2-year-old daughter, Evelyn, and another on the way, I care deeply about Wisconsin and Waukesha and want to make it a great place to live, work, and retire. And that's why job creation with small businesses and the taxation issues in our high tax state are very important to me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
My name is Aaron Perry. I'm an alderman here in the city of Waukesha. I serve District 12, which is actually just across the street here. I'll introduce my wife as well since she's here. My wife Angie. We're actually expecting a girl next month as well. We have 2 little boys at home now. And the issue that I'm most concerned about is local control. Being one of those local elected officials now, I see the impact of when we have it and when we don't. And I believe it's very important. And having someone in the assembly that understands that and understands how being connected to a community as well as I am is, one, it's scalable to that position and it produces results. It protects our finances and it protects our culture. Good examples of that are our local budgets, and our culture, a good example is the Indians nickname in Wanego. Those things are very near and dear to people when it hits their pocketbook and it hits their culture. Having children definitely gives a different perspective on this race, as education will be talked about tonight, which is very important. Stepping up and being one of those leaders is something I'm very proud of, and I hope to earn your trust. I've earned the trust of local elected leaders here. 5 members of the Common Council have all publicly endorsed me, as well as our newly elected mayor. Those to me are very effective reasons why local control is important and why I'm the best candidate in this race. Thank you.
Thank you. Vince.
Sure. First, let me begin by thanking all of you for being here tonight, and specifically thank the Republican women of Waukesha County for hosting this event. Forums such as these are fundamental to the democratic process, and an informed electorate ensures the freedom of our nation. For those of you who I have not yet met, my name is Vince Travato. My first political involvement began back in 1998, alongside many of you here in this room, when I was the president of the Waukesha West Young Republicans and volunteered with this county party. I finally remember making Tommy Thompson signs in Bob Black's garage and watching the Bush Court debate at the party headquarters on Full Street with my high school classmates. I am a 3rd-generation Waukesha resident, my grandparents coming here during the Great Depression, and I care passionately for my hometown and the people of this district. While in college at UW-Madison, I interned for then State Assemblyman Scott Walker. Later worked on several campaigns, served on the county party executive board, served as a legislative assistant and policy advisor to Republican leadership during the Act 10 days at the state capitol, and worked with the International Republican Institute in South Sudan, assisting pro-U.S. political parties in the world's newest nation. I'm deeply committed to upholding our conservative values and will be a tireless advocate for our principles after being elected as your next state representative. I believe in policy and not politics. I am pro-life, pro-small business, anti-tax, and fundamentally believe in the sanctity of privacy rights and individual freedoms. I'm confident that my involvement over the years reflect and bear witness to these steadfast beliefs. My campaign is a grassroots campaign. You're not as well funded as others. I can assure you, though, that we make up for what we lack in financial resources with hard work and a determination to be your voice and to earn your vote. If I have not knocked on your door yet, I will be soon. Thank you again for being here this evening, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you. Kathleen?
Thank you, Republican women and all the members of the audience that came here tonight on this very, we're all busy evening. What I'd like to say to you as an introduction is that I've lived in Waukesha since 1978. I came here with my husband, and he's a lifelong Waukesha resident. I have 3 children, they're all grown, and I've been to the school district, and I've been on the county board now for 15 years. I have made tough choices. I have done the job. I have worked in the community. And yes, I'm nervous. So with that, I would like to say to you that it should get easier, but it's never easier. I've been doing both jobs as an alderman. I became an elected alderman in 2001. And since that time, for 13 years, I've been doing both jobs. I've always known what the left hand, right hand have been doing, and I've used those skills that I've learned at the county to bring those to the city. I have gone to conventions, I have expanded my wealth of knowledge. I've served on the Autism Board of Southeastern Wisconsin for 8 years. Did a networking box lunch with no budget at all. That was interesting. And I came to this race because I wanted to give you all a choice. Somebody that you knew, somebody that has fallen down, has gotten back up, fell down again, got back up. Sometimes I feel like one of those bozo clowns punching me, just keep coming back up. But that tells you that I will work hard for you. I won't give up, I won't give in, and I will work for you, and that's really why I got into this race. I am married to David Cummins, I don't think I mentioned that. And my kids are Katie, Joseph, and Matthew, and I would consider it a privilege to work for you in Madison because I do consider this a job interview. Thank you.
Hi, Joe Bansky. I moved here in 2004 after serving at Waukesha South as a high school coach for 9 years. When I decided to move my family here, it was because I got to know some of your families, some of your kids that played volleyball, and I got to see how your parenting skills raised good, respectful kids, and I wanted to be part of that community as my family grew up. I took 4 years out from serving in the community and started back after my kids were out of diapers through Fox River Church, where I currently serve. I run our Upward Sports program at the Waukesha campus and do some adult Bible study there as well. And I think that's one of the reasons that I wanted to get involved politically, was because I was getting involved in your lives in different ways socially, and was hearing some of the same concerns echoed. 4 years ago, back in 2010, I ran for election here in the town of Waukesha and won, served 3 terms. If you read the Freeman at all, kudos to the Freeman, it's still 75 cents. You'll know that I'm no stranger to newspaper pages. I have made, in the last 3 years, every 3-2 vote that has come out of the town of Waukesha, I was number 3. The 2s commonly changed, but I was always the deciding vote, which proved that I was trying to work to find solutions to very difficult problems. We're not talking about somebody's shed. We're talking about water service area. We're talking about legal incorporation, significant things that I've handled, and proven that I've handled myself in a conservative way. All the way through last year, I was the sole vote not to raise taxes, and I wrote the budget that got adopted so I could prove that we did not need to have a tax levy increase.
And Scott?
First, I want to introduce my daughter Christine tonight. I believe that actions speak louder than words. In 2008, this country was swooned by a man long on words, but short on performance. And look where that got us. Republican voters are smarter than that. Republican voters will look at a candidate's actions over time and evaluate that person's performance before making their selection. In this race, there is one true conservative. There is one true Republican. In this race, there is one candidate who is a proven leader with a track record of performance to back up his words. Ladies and gentlemen, I am that candidate. Some will talk about business, but have never run a business. Some will talk about loving this community, but their actions show little evidence of that love. Some will talk about economic development, but have no experience in economic development. Some will talk about the ill effects of Common Core, but don't have first-hand experience in working through some of the crazy 6th grade math problems that your 12-year-old brings home. Some will talk about protecting freedoms like the right to bear arms, but how can we be sure that they would have the courage to do so? Many will talk the talk, but only one candidate in this race has walked the walk. Ladies and gentlemen, I am that candidate. My name is Scott Allen, and I'm asking for your vote.
Thank you. We'll move on to the questions then. I believe Robin has the first question. What she's going to do is read the questions toward me first so the candidates hear them. Again, this is the first time they've heard the questions, they know the topic. And then she's going to turn and reread the questions so all of you can hear the same. And if any of the candidates wish, because it's down the line a little bit, wish to have them repeated, just let us know. I don't want to have to call on you each time. I think you've got the list, so you were doing pretty good there that time, I think. But I think we can do it. And again, we did it very random, so everybody, would follow the same person every time, just like that. So, yeah, please.
Candidates, the first topic for you is job creation. And job creation is still the main focus of our governor. What component of our state's economy do you think needs to be addressed for strong job growth? And what plan or reforms would you propose to do so? In the audience, the topic is job creation. It is still the governor's main focus. We've asked what component of our state's economy do the candidates think need to be addressed for strong job growth, and what plan or reforms would they propose to do so?
Thank you, Robin.
I get to go first on this one, and I'm very happy to go first on this one, actually. The component in which I believe there's a lot of opportunity is in technology. I work with that on my full-time basis. I work with small and medium-sized businesses now, helping them with their needs, and I see what they need and what they don't need from government. And I see what they need and don't need in regards to workforce. My plan in that is to get very involved in it. Involved in it the way that we've never seen anybody in the assembly position actually get involved before. About 2/3 of the time the assemblyman spends working is in the district. It's not in Madison, it's right here. And those people who I've had that experience with and learned a lot from are the people that I want to work with. There's jobs out there and there's people that need work. And there's programs out there, but there's not enough right now that's connecting the two. I uniquely see that as a role of the assemblyman. We can get people back to work, it requires more effort and more leadership, and that's the leadership that I want to provide. Secondly, in regards to jobs, I'll go on record as saying I certainly hope that the governor does approve the Kenosha Casino. I've spoken with people here in Waukesha and in Waukesha County who would have those jobs, those construction jobs, were that to be approved. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question. As I've gone door to door throughout this campaign, echoing in my mind over and over again are the conversations that I've had with individual voters who are underemployed or unemployed and who are struggling in this economy even after we've had a so-called recovery. So we need more jobs and we need better paying jobs. I want to applaud the Walker administration for turning the corner after a great recession and after a long period of decline. The Walker administration has done a fantastic job of turning the corner. Having been in business for the last 21 years, I know firsthand what are the issues that are facing business in terms of why business expands, why jobs are created. And a lot of times the job of government is to just get out of the way, either to burden us less with taxes, burden us less with regulations, burden us less with reporting requirements. Sometimes it's that simple, that government wants to put its hands in things where the best thing for it to do is to back off and let the entrepreneurs do their work. So I will go to Madison and fight with the Republican legislature, fight with Governor Walker to make sure that we get out of the way of business so that business can grow.
When you look at what role government really plays in job creation, it only really has two facets to it. It can A, hire people and grow government and offer them employment, or it can create an environment in which employers can prosper. As a self-employed owner of a business for the last 14 years, I know the things that put pressure on me as an employer, things like healthcare costs, things like tax issues, things like overregulation. When you need a license or a certificate to become a hairstylist, when you see some of that type of overregulation, you know that we have a problem. When I talk with a good friend of mine who's a CFO for a large-size healthcare organization, he was attempting to recruit a dozen CPAs from a Seattle firm that their firm just acquired. He was unable to recruit any of them because of the tax issue facing Wisconsin. They could find similar employment there, and they could find better housing costs there for their dollar, and he was unable to recruit them here. That's the environment that needs to change. We need to look at our tax code and make it work for self-employed small business and mid-sized business owners.
I think that the question is not necessarily phrased correctly. I don't believe the government has any role whatsoever in creating jobs. I think the government is the problem that keeps jobs from being created. We find the bureaucracy that business owners have to contend with on a daily basis is not allowing companies to hire people for good paying, family sustaining jobs like they could be in a different regulatory environment. I think that's one component of it. But we also need to be looking at other ways to help our economy, promoting our technical education. I understand the opportunity to attend the Small Business Roundtable that was hosted by the county party, and talking to business owners that attended that, I think that overwhelmingly the support was to invest more money in tech education. I think that's important. That matches up job seekers who have specific skills with job creators who can hire them to do a job at good paying rates. It's important that we remember that we don't just want to create a number of jobs. We want to create jobs that can sustain families. I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah, jobs is one of the biggest issues in the campaign when I go door to door. I serve in my spare time as president of the Milwaukee School of Engineering Alumni Board, and in doing so I meet hundreds of alum in the Waukesha area that either work at businesses or have started their own businesses. So even prior to the campaign, I've gone to them and I said, what would be the best thing that state government could do to aid job growth? And along the way, I've heard a lot of good ideas. I've heard stories of how the Department of Revenue has done unnecessary audits in small businesses that create a lot of costs that are unnecessary. I've heard stories of the Department of Natural Resources getting in the way. My good friend Dave Ball, who owns Weldall out that window, supporting me, tried to buy the building next door and ran into DNR issue. Wants to grow his business, and the state stands in the way. J.R. Kramer, who owns Wisconsin Metal Tech, big supporter of my campaign, same issue. Small business, less than 25 employees. He's walked me through what the Department of Revenue at the state level could do to get red tape out of the way. And so when I go around and talk to small business job creators, because as everyone has said, small businesses create jobs, not the government, I have some real practical, principled ideas that the state government can do, and if elected, I would implement. Folks at Generac supporting me, they've helped out in detailing what a big, mid-sized company like they need from state government. So jobs, 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 those are the top three issues I talk about when I go door to door.
I guess it's me. So, job creation, it's about getting government out of the way. We're going to be saying the same things over and over again, but it is. I remember when Glenn from West Salisbury wanted to open up his party store, and there I was, and all what's the problem? He says, they got me doing some bathroom thing, and I need this piece of paper. So I went to City Hall, it was a piece of paper, and he couldn't get his business open because it was a piece of paper. He needed this regulation, that regulation. That's what's happening in Madison right now. There is it's a review the administrative statutes. You know, we make these laws, and now they're being reviewed, and less paperwork. What I find with businesses is it's the paperwork, it's doing, you know, guys, I'm nervous. If I'm at the door, I'm just gonna pretend that I'm gonna talk to you at the door. Sir, government needs to get out of the way. My grandfather had a small business called a cycle machine. He had cycles in Tiffin, Ohio. First, jobs are created out of need. Then you find the need, then you hire employees, and the government needs to get out of the way. What I've heard the most problem businesses have is the fact there's too much regulation. Maybe we have 4 or 5 pieces of paper, and we have this and that tax. We need to provide an environment that creates jobs, which is less taxes, less regulation, and let them do what they do best. They've already found the need. They just have to get up and going. We just need to get out of the way. So that's what I would say, and I'll stop. I wasn't looking at you, I'm sorry.
Kathy, you have the next topic and the next question for us.
Candidates, our second question is concerning the Wisconsin GOP principles. Of the GOP principles as established by the Republican Party of Wisconsin, which one is the most important to you and why? Also, please tell us, if elected, how you would promote that principle. The audience, the second question is concerning the Wisconsin GOP principles. Of the GOP principles established by the Republican Party of Wisconsin, which one is the most important to you and why? And also, please tell us, if elected, how would you promote that principle?
Well, I must confess, I don't have all the principles of the GOP of Wisconsin memorized, but I'll tell you why I'm a Republican. I'm a Republican because I believe in the power of the individual when fueled by liberty. I don't believe in government taking care of people. I believe in people taking care of them. And people helping each other out. And government does its best when it gets out of the way, when it protects us from each other and our own greed and our own sinful nature. But that's the role of government. It's a very limited role. When we power people with liberty, we can do great things. That's why I'm a Republican. That's why I've been a Republican all my life. And I've fought for Republican principles all my life, and I will continue to do so.
Okay. GOP principles. One of the most important things is the economy. It's about getting out of the way. That is what our forefathers stood for. It's about getting out of the way, let the free marketplace do its job. Find out what the need is, do its job, have it be the free marketplace. And that's one of the GOP principles, is about job growth. The next thing is with our courts. I don't believe we have the judicial system, and we have our rules. Judges shouldn't be making the rules off the bench. They should be interpreting the law. It should be the law is the law. They should interpret the law and not make it different when they're from the bench. And that's one of our GOP principles, is to get out of it. Right? I like it. Good. We agree. See, we're agreeing.
My answer is short and to the point. I believe that the Republican Party should be the party of the Constitution. We must return to those values. We must continue to talk about limited government, smaller government, more effective government. This should be the party that continues to look at ways to expand freedom, not to inhibit freedom. As hokey as that sounds, I firmly believe that government is the problem, not the solution. We must restore our belief in individual rights and accountability, self-responsibility. These are absolutely essential underpinnings to our society. We are the party of Lincoln, the party of Theodore Roosevelt, the party of Ronald Reagan. We can uphold those values.
I'll keep my answer pretty short as well. Vince and I both chimed in on the Freeman survey that Thomas Jefferson was our favorite president and stated reasons why. In Jefferson's 1800 inaugural speech, he talked about a wise and frugal and limited government, which is something that I truly believe in. When you look at the Constitution, most of the ills that we face as a nation and as a state from a government side, if we follow the wise words, we would not be in that position, and I think that is the best way out of it, is to always ask that question, is this a role of government? Does this limit the impact of government upon us? And that would be the way that, one of the ways I'd be making those decisions and promoting that.
Government should not be involved in areas where citizens can serve themselves. That's the one that I find most important. It's about empowerment. National entitlements have crippled parts of this country. Not empowering people it threatens this principle, and it's a very important one. Issues like voter ID, I look at that as an issue not just protecting our elections, but empowering people to do the things, the other essential things you need to do to have an ID. That's the one that I find most important, especially in a modern area, in a modern era. And it's like, I believe it's the one we need to protect the most.
I first got involved with the Republican Party when I was 7 years old, and I've been involved ever since. In fact, I was coming over here right before we left the house tonight. Governor Thompson called. He said, "I hope you're not nervous for the debate." I said, "Well, I'm a little nervous." He goes, "Brandon, all you have to do is pull out your Republican Party membership card," of which I got from Kathy in 2007 when I joined the Waukesha County Party. But the Republican principle I most believe in is the third one that talks about the free enterprise system and how government needs to get out of the way. And along the way, in my 27 years involved with the Republican Party, I've earned the respect of and the endorsement, the sole endorsement of Governor Thompson. Don Taylor, the Waukesha past president of the Waukesha Party, has endorsed me exclusively. Waukesha County Sheriff Chewicki, very solid Republican in the county, and established leaders endorsed me. We have a lot of great candidates up here, but the folks that are Republicans have come out in strong support of me. Just over the weekend, Representative Joel Clayfish, another strong Republican, supports me because of my strong conservative views and how I think government plays a role in reducing taxes and aiding small businesses and creating jobs. So when I look at the track record of Republicans that have supported me, there's a lot of good local Waukesha County Republicans and business leaders.
Robin, do you have the next question for us? Please give us the topic and read the question for the candidates and then to the public, please.
The topic is education. The governor recently signaled that he wants the legislature to begin the process of repealing Common Core in Wisconsin. Would you be for or against this move and why? And what plan would you like to move forward with to improve the standards in Wisconsin? Audience, the topic is education, and the question is, the governor recently signaled that he wants the legislature to begin the process of repealing Common Core in Wisconsin. Why would the candidates be for or against this? And what plan would they like to see to improve the standards in Wisconsin?
I think that topic goes to me first. To answer your question directly, I do support ending Common Core. I think that that's an issue that I'm glad that Governor Walker touched on. I've talked to a lot of people actually on both sides of the political fence about this issue, and it seems like there's actually some agreement between right and left on this. I will say that I think that having some sort of standards is a noble goal, but the way the Common Core has been implemented to me has been completely wrong. I find that the biggest problem that we have with Common Core right now is that it takes away local control. I think that our school system should be locally controlled. We should have a voice in the education of our community's children. Any Common Core will achieve some of those goals. I also support, when we're talking about education, I do support school choice and vouchers. I also support making this public school system, which we're very blessed to have here in this community, in the 97th Assembly District, the best that we can, the best in the state.
Education is critically important. I think we're very much at a crossroads here in Wisconsin. It's something that absolutely stays on my radar, as well as my wife. We have a lot of discussions about education. This last Saturday, we had a meet and greet with some voters that we both went to, and they're very concerned about the direction of that. I have a public and private education background. My wife, public education, and her parents are public school teachers. So you can imagine those discussions that we have when they come and visit. To answer the question, yes, I would support repeal of the federal standards of Common Core. I think in an education education standpoint, we've taken one step forward and one step back. The step forward we took was school choice. The step back we took was Common Core. So taking that step forward would be a positive. Another part of that plan would be expanding school choice. I would be in favor of that as long as it's coupled with some better oversight in relation to the vouchers going to kids that don't already pay for that school. There was a percentage of kids that got those vouchers, and that's where we talk about trimming the fat in Madison of some wasted money. That percentage should be 0. Thanks.
If you live in the 97th district and you vote, you probably got a flyer from me 2 weeks ago that detailed my strong opposition to Common Core. The day that I hit the mailboxes, I got more phone calls than any other flyer I'd mailed this campaign. And a lot of conservatives were saying, "What are you doing? How can you be against that?" And I said, "That's what I believe, and you're hearing it from me." The next day, oddly enough, Governor Walker came out against Common Core, and a few of those people called me back and said, I had no idea that was the right stance on this. So I've been against Common Core. It's been on my website since the campaign started, and I had the courage to mail the district to detail my plan for education and my opposition to Common Core. We have a diverse educational background in our household. My wife was homeschooled and then went on to private school and medical college. I was trained in public schools and private college. So we consider all sorts of different educational options. But one thing is clear: when the standards are set, it needs to be done at the state level with local control. And we need to keep those that want to choose different paths of education, like homeschool, free from government's reign. Because really, at the end of it, this is a federal issue. They've already invaded our healthcare system with Obamacare, and we don't need them invading our education system with another sort of Bill Gates-led, Obama-led Common Core.
You know, there's a lot of talk these days about Common Core standards, and interestingly enough, Gallup recently did a survey, and they found that 61% of Americans have no idea what Common Core is. That's pretty staggering. This for a program that was created in 2010. One of the primary problems with Common Core is that there hasn't been a discussion about it. And people are saying, well, why is it a campaign issue now? Well, because it should have been 4 years ago. There should have been a lot more discussion about it. Wisconsin was, I believe, the first state in the nation under the DPI to just simply accept it. Just simply sign up. And it was about money. Race to the top funding program. You know, that's not the way to do things, at least not in Wisconsin, at least not for Republicans. Parents and families should be involved in the discussion about curriculum. You know, again, I've got a 6th grader, and it's frustrating as a parent when your 6th grader comes home with her math homework, and there's 15 steps to completing a math problem that I can complete in 2 or 3. And she's like, no, that's not the way the teacher wants me to do it. Yeah, I have a real problem with curriculum standards under Common Core, and I think we do need to re-examine it.
Common Core. I didn't know anything about it before I got to this race, I'll admit. Because my kids have been out of school for a period of time. It wasn't on my radar. But I did my homework, and this is what I found out. A person who never even taught school invented it. Can you imagine that? That was shocking to me. And what was worse, what I found out is that one person could make the decision. That's not right. Maybe we should look at how those checks and balances are in Madison. Maybe we should look at the statute. I'm not quite sure, but, you know, one person shouldn't be able to make the decision for an entire state on education. My kids suffered through inventive spelling. Just get your thoughts on your paper. Don't worry about what it says. You know, it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. If they don't have a computer with spell check, we're dead in the water. So I can only imagine, with all the things I've heard about Common Core, this is about the worst thing that ever was invented. Because it didn't come from the ground up. It came from somebody that never even taught a class. Thank you. And I support the government.
I've come out very early in promoting the repeal of Common Core. Matter of fact, I was recognized by the Freedom Education Coalition out of Atlanta back in early June for my position on Common Core as against it. My wife has been a high school teacher for 13 years. She was a mechanical engineer prior to that, got her master's in math. She was a STEM director last year at Kettle Moraine School District for the district. She's now a coordinator at McGuanago High School for the Computer Science Public Charter School. When education is talked about at our kitchen table, it's talked about from a nuts and bolts standpoint. I talked to her about the impacts that Common Core would make. I talked with her about the actual standards. We compare notes of what Dr. James Milgram, who was one of the only 2 professors, world-renowned mathematician, who was on the validation committee for Common Core, and adamantly opposed its standards. Sandra Stotsky is the other English language arts professor who also opposed it. This is not a dialogue about should we have a national standard. This is a dialogue about your constitutional rights. This is a state issue. The state of Wisconsin has the right, as per the Constitution, to define what education will be in our state. And we do that through our local school board, and you do that through who you elect to that school board every 2 years. And that's the methodology that we should go to, and the school board principals and teachers accountable through that mechanism.
Okay, Kathy, who's your next?
Candidates, our fourth question is concerning assembly committees. If elected, will you in all likelihood be appointed, you will be in all likelihood appointed to various committees? If you could select which committee or committees you would like to serve on, what would it be and what makes you qualified for that position? The fourth question for our candidates is concerning assembly committees. If elected, you will in all likelihood be appointed to various committees. If you could select which committee or committees you would like to serve on, what would it be and what makes you most qualified for that position?
Thank you. I think I'll stand. Now, you want to know which committees, Kathy, that I would be wanting to work on. I did a little investigation in that today. What I learned is that they would look at county government as an arm of the state. I'm already doing it. As a county board supervisor for the 15 years, I have served on the Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee for over 10 years. I've been on personnel. I've been on Health and Human Services that oversee the veteran services, the children endangerment, all those things. I've been on Parks and Land Use Committee. I learned that the town is built on 5 acres. I know about land use issues. I know about a lot of things, and I just lost it. So, but anyways, they view county government as an arm of the state. And with that, they're already reviewing the rule of law within those things. In other words, they're looking at how we do our government, how we can do it better. And so there's this paperwork that leads to all these other wonderful things. So I'm thoroughly prepared to become the next state assemblyman because of my experience on the county board, because it's just a mini microcosm of that state level. That's what it is. It's just doing the same thing. And I would want to be on that committee, probably with veteran services.
I announced I was running for this position back in March. I was the first one to announce, and part of the process, I took about 4 weeks to decide whether to run or not. And part of that process is, are there committees where I feel I could add value? So I've known since then the answer to this question, so I'm glad it's on here. The 2 committees are Children and Families and Small Business Development. The reason I'm interested in those are those are the 2 I feel I would bring the most value. I'm a father of 2 with a third on the way. I have children and a family. And I understand what it's like from a healthcare standpoint, a budgetary standpoint, to be in that situation. In my experience now, in my full-time role in working with small and medium-sized businesses, gives me a good outlook on what they go through. I've worked with businesses from the first day that they're open. I've worked with businesses who've been established for a long time. Those would be 2 committees I'd be very proud to serve on.
Well, certainly with a 21-year history in the real estate industry, it would be a logical and good fit for me to serve on the Housing and Real Estate Committee. I could certainly lend some expertise in that area, and I'm happy to help. Also, as a veteran, it would be logical, and I would be honored to serve on the Veterans Committee for the Assembly. And finally, the focus of my campaign has been about jobs. It was, I think, our very first question here tonight. And I would be very much interested in serving on the Jobs, Economy, and Mining Committee. And since I've got just a moment or two and I've heard some name dropping, I figured I'd let you know I've got a few endorsements on my own I can tell you about. And I'm proud to say that they're local representatives, local officials. State Senator Mary Lazick, who's considered one of the most conservative legislators in the state legislature, is an endorsing supporter of mine. I've also got County Board Chairman Paul Decker, newly elected County Supervisor Christine Howard, and also former Mayor Carol Lombardi. So great people who love this community, who know this community, and know my work.
This upcoming election season, there'll be at least 22 Assembly folks of the 99 in the state that do not return to Madison when the session kicks off next January. I've met with all the Waukesha area representatives at some point during this campaign and recently asked one of them about committee assignments and how the process worked, and he said, with all the turnover, at least 22 folks not coming back, the committees will change. Some will go away, some, if there's an expertise area that you have, you can bring to the table, some might be created. I said I'm most concerned about job creation, and I have background 10 years in the private sector, primarily in healthcare. And so those are the two areas I think I can add the most value. And it's possible that it might be a new committee, or it might be something related to a small business committee that already exists. But those are the areas that I'm most able to dive right into with a lot of the experience I've had at the MSW Alumni Association level working with small businesses. And as we're continuing to add on more endorsements, I'll mention County Supervisor Vice Chair Walter Cole is another local folk that's supporting me and allows me to put the only sign outside the Waukesha County Republican headquarters when you drive by. So depending on which way you go home in the district tonight, you might see Rosner for Assembly, a fresh start.
My previous experience working in the state legislature gave me a first-hand look into some of these committees. I think that you have to balance what your personal interests are with what the community could use somebody serving as an advocate or a voice on these committees with. That being said, Jobs, Economy, and Mining Committee is also one that I selected. I think that obviously our focal point should still be on jobs. The President's failed policies to bring us out of this recession are very clear, I think. They have not worked, so we need to continue to put our focal point into how we can get government out of the way to create jobs. International trade and commerce goes along with those ideas as well, but that is the other committee that I'd very much like to serve on. My international experience, I think, is unique among the candidates in this race, and will allow me to be a voice for Waukesha and Wisconsin businesses that want to invest and export products overseas, and how we can create jobs here at home by sending more products abroad. Finally, I also look at transportation as being another committee that I'd like to serve on. I think that when it comes to state spending, transportation is a huge component of what our tax dollars are used for. I want to make sure that we're using those dollars wisely, that we're protecting your money, and that we make sure that the decisions that we make in regards to roads are the benefit of our state.
When it comes to these committee assignments, I think that it has to be something that you're personally excited and involved about. So when I look at these, I think about children and family and jobs and education. Those are things that impact our families, and I feel is really why I'm looking to serve is to represent our families. It's nice to have big name endorsements and talk about those, but really it's the people who are seeking our representation in Madison that are struggling day to day, that are concerned about where their kids' future is going to be. Those are the endorsements that I care about, and I work very hard to get the maximum number of nomination signatures going door to door to get that and show you that that's the kind of endorsements that I care about. But these three areas are important to me. They are our future, they are the core of our families, and those are the areas that I'm working.
Robin, for our next question.
Candidates, the next topic is taxes. Assuming you are for reforming Wisconsin's tax structure, what taxes would you propose reforming, and what impact would that have on the taxpayers of Waukesha County? Audience, the question to the candidates is taxes, assuming that they are for reforming Wisconsin's tax structure. We're asking what taxes they would propose reforming and what impact it would have on you in the county.
As I said a couple times tonight, I think making Wisconsin a great place to live, work, and retire is the underlying theme of what I say when I go around. And how you do that is lower the tax burden. Wisconsin still remains one of the highest property taxes, income taxes, sales taxes, and other fees. And that doesn't make it easy for someone like my folks who want to stay in the state to be by our two daughters to stay in Wisconsin. It's expensive when people retire, but they want to go down to Arizona and Florida where they don't have some of those same taxes we have. When I go door to door, sometimes, not all the time, I carry the $70 billion state budget. There's a lot in here. It's heavy. It's 500 plus pages. And I've looked at things in there that can be reformed, from the Department of Revenue to the Department of Natural Resources. I think out of $70 billion, there's some waste that could be shaved, and it could be a direct impact to Waukesha County taxpayers. The question was, how does it impact them? Lower property taxes allows people to stay here, particularly those on fixed income. Lower income tax allows small businesses to grow and the average folk to keep more of their paycheck. A lower sales tax is just more money for all folks that spend and keep back in their pocket. So there's a lot in here that those taxes pay for, and I think there's a lot that we can get rid of and have specific ideas of what we can start slashing on the $70 billion.
I think that the question with taxes comes down to philosophy, and I hope that we're all in agreement on this stage, but the first step is to ensure that we all have the right philosophy, which is we need to look at the tax dollars that come in for revenue as being the people's money. First and foremost, we need to be accountable for every dollar that's spent. As a state representative, I would demand that not only would there be a fiscal note attached on the bill, the representatives are required to read the bills that they're passing, but we are looking at each and every dollar that is being spent of your money. And that's how we have to look at it. I am in favor of slashing taxes across the board. I think Governor Walker has done well to begin that process. We need to continue to process increasing property tax relief, looking at ways to reduce sales tax. And I will also say that I'm very much opposed to a tax in this region for a new arena in downtown Milwaukee. I believe that we, as conservatives and as Republicans, we need to be steadfast in our opposition to new taxes and aggressively looking at ways to reduce taxes and the tax burden that our people face.
When you look at taxes in Wisconsin as a percentage of income, I've seen estimates that put us as number 8 in the nation. Number 8, we are taxed way too much. Property tax is too high, income tax is too high. If you want to gain a good understanding of how we're taxed too much, become self-employed. There's two things that happen. Number one, you have to pay both the employer and the employee portion of Social Security. That's bad. But then, the other thing is that you have to actually write out the checks yourself and send the checks off to the federal government and the state government. And you see your checking account go from nice to, well, not as nice as it was before. You gain an appreciation for that and an understanding of how impactful that is. Governor Walker has pledged to lower taxes in Wisconsin every year during his next term. He's already lowered property taxes and income taxes, and I fully support the tax shift that he's given us. We ought not tax a thing that we want more of. And we want more jobs, and we want better paying jobs. I believe so strongly in reducing income taxes for wage earners and self-employed individuals. I pledge that I will work toward eliminating the income tax in Wisconsin altogether.
When I think about the tax code, we focus always on saying we're going to lower taxes, we're going to lower taxes. Taxes for me, and the way I handled it in the town, was a result of focusing on spending. If you focus on spending, as I did here in the town, we found that when we got over to the revenue side, the tax side, we didn't need as much money because we isolated what spending we felt we needed to have. That's the view that I think we need to take in Madison, is to understand, and that's the view I will take, is why are we spending, what are we spending on, and is it a role of government, is it a reducing a role that government currently is playing that it doesn't or shouldn't play in. And that commonly will find waste and money that we don't need to be spending there, as we did in town, we were able to reduce the taxes. Most specifically, I would be focusing on reducing the income tax burden that we face. It affects families across the board, but not proportionately. It affects families who are making middle income wages greater because the dollars that they have left buy fewer goods and services for them. Look at the price of an average car, things along those lines. So I would be focusing on our income tax structure and trying to reduce that so that we could spur some economic growth through job creation.
Reduce taxes through property tax, through our budgets. The only reason why you pay taxes is because you have things to pay for. You have, Mr. Rosner is carrying around that large budget. We have to pay for that. So that's where you find waste. Then you reduce it, you reduce the property tax, you reduce the income tax. But you have to look at all the stuff you're buying. I mean, a budget is nothing more than the stuff you have to pay for because you want to do it or you have to provide a service. So it's about reducing what we have, which goes back to lean government principles. It goes back to what we're doing in Waukesha County. We reclassify, reorganize our function all the time. We've combined how our function between the veterans and senior services. We look at how we can do that better by costing less because we're not duplicating. It's reducing duplication. That's how you reduce taxes. You streamline government. You have less of it, and then the less you have to pay for it. So that's the less they collect from you. So it goes just back to basics. If you don't need it, don't have it, cut it if you don't want it. I'll give you the extra 15 seconds, Kathy. How about that?
The reform is in the budget. There's fat in there to be trimmed. I think everybody in this room most likely agrees with that. We're the best decision makers when it comes to our own money. There was a good point that was made that that's what it is. It is our money. And having more local control in that aspect puts you in contact with people who deal with the tax money that you've given them more often. A couple things I want to be very clear on is as the state faces a transportation issue in regards to roads, a raising of the gas tax is not something that I will be in favor of. Also, adding an additional tax for a Buck Stadium is something I've been very vocal about, that I will never support a regional tax for a new Bucks arena. The reason that book is so big, think about the amount of taxes themselves that have just been added, say, in the last 4 or 5 decades. That's where we need to really hunker down and not let the amount of taxes that we continue to add, and have it be the first option as well. But when we look at something that our region needs, is not public financing. Kathy?
Candidates, next question is concerning the right direction. It's a lengthy one. It's a new day in Wisconsin, and we're moving in the right direction. As a result of difficult but prudent decisions, the governor and legislature has turned a $3.6 billion budget deficit into a surplus. They reduced the tax burden facing our middle class and provided job creators with the tools they needed to succeed. There's more work to be done, but we're on the right track. What would you do if elected to keep the state on the right track? Okay, to our audience, the candidates are being asked a question concerning the right direction. It's a new day in Wisconsin. We're moving in the right direction. As a result of difficult but prudent decisions, the governor and legislature has turned a $3.6 billion budget deficit into a surplus. They reduced the tax burden facing our middle class and provided job creators with the tools they needed to succeed. There's more work to be done, but we're on the right track. What would you do if elected to keep the state on the right track?
Well, not having any clue what this question was going to be before we came in tonight, I was thrilled when I saw that my name was first on this. You know, we are on the right track. And if it weren't for the Republican legislature and a Republican governor, in particular Scott Walker, who knows where we would be. But there is more work to be done. And I've been saying that in every encounter that I've had throughout this whole campaign, when I meet folks at their doors or talk to them on the phone. And where do we go from here? I mean, Act 10 was huge, it was monumental, and it really helped turn things around, but there's so much more that we can do. The largest portion of your tax bill is not the state of Wisconsin. It is your local government, it is the county government, it is Waukesha County Technical College. So what can we do? The state government ought to take a lead in fostering intergovernmental cooperation. It is time for us to create efficiencies in government through cooperation, and the state can take that lead. I will delve into that, and I will figure out ways for us through the state revenue sharing program to force those efficiencies at the local level.
Well, to answer the question, which I think is fairly broad, I think that what we can look at, first and foremost, is to continue to advance the conservative principles that we've been discussing here all night. That comes in to reducing taxes, reducing the tax burden, ways to reduce the tax code. It also comes in ways that we can look at continuing on the path that Act 10 set us on. I think that we have to be open to exploring options like right to work. I know it's a controversial topic, but I think that we need to start approaching that issue with an open mind and saying that perhaps this is the next step that we should be taking as a state. I think that we need to hold true to our principles, whether or not you're an elected official, you still need to be true to these principles. It's not about politics, it's about policy. I think it's absolutely essential that people don't lose sight of the people that they're there to represent. And for this area, that means being a true conservative across the board, 100%. I will continue to look at every way possible to reduce waste, to reduce spending, to be a limited and small government conservative, to look at ways that we can restore our constitutional values and our respect for liberty. These are the issues that we should be focusing on. These will be the issues that I think are going to be important to the constituents in this district.
One of the things I'm excited about is some of the current assemblymen that are there, people like Dale Kuyanga, Chris Kapanga, Dave Craig. These are guys who made brave and bold choices to support Act 10 and took pressure and heat for doing it. And I think what we learned from Act 10 was that a bold solution to a big problem took men and women of courage to step up and stand for something. And I believe that that is something I've proven over the last 4 years, that I am that type of individual that will stand in line and speak what I believe and stand for what I believe and work on that specifically. When we talk about a limited small government and a constitutional-based government, those are things that I just believe in personally and I'm focused in, and I think that those are commonalities that I would share with those other assemblymen I mentioned, and I'd be excited to work with them on promoting some of the topics that we've talked about tonight, whether that's taxation, education, and focusing on that reduction in spending.
Absolutely. They said early on, if anybody wanted it, that'd be great.
It's a new day in Wisconsin, and we're moving in the right direction. As a result of difficult but prudent decisions, the governor and legislature has turned a $3.6 billion budget deficit into a surplus. They reduced the tax burden facing our middle class and provided job creators with the tools they needed to succeed. There's more work to be done, but we're on the right track. What would you do, if elected, to keep the state on the right track?
Well, the first thing I would do after being elected on August the 12th would be get Governor Walker reelected. That would be what I would do, because he's already on the right track. He's already laid the path. He is the leader. My job as assemblyman would be to foster whatever the governor, whatever he wants to promote. There's more things to do. I think we can go further with that. I believe we can push that element. to have, to even have more savings. Also, the question, that's what I would do. It also going to the things that we have to do to streamline government is what we're doing in Waukesha County. We just are starting a pilot program with our Public Works Department where we're actually contracting. We've bid out a contract for the state of Wisconsin. We're going to implement it. We're going to look at it. We're going to be saving money. That is what we're doing in Waukesha County. We're already doing intergovernmental cooperation between New Berlin, City of Waukesha, and the Kennel Club. We've done that. I got a dog park for you. It's over there at Manuka. It only cost $15,000 for the partners against $43,000 that it cost for the fence. In 6 months, it was paid for. So successful. Dan Baracus built another one in Neshota. We got to do more things like that. And we got to be more efficient with our energy as well. And I'll sit down.
How do we keep moving forward? I have a couple of points. The first one is stay connected and do my job. When that happens, we keep our majority. That's important. Our ideas are best. We need to make sure that those go forward by keeping our majority. That's done by staying connected with people and doing your job. My view of staying connected with people is maybe one of more innovation. My plan is to stay connected with people the way you haven't seen an assemblyman ever do that before. I do that now as an alderman. I like the jokes that I get from fellow councilmen as to how quickly I can get information out to people. But staying connected with people, they don't only just learn from me, I learned a lot from them. That's where I get the feedback. It's a representative position. The more I can learn from other people and take that to Madison from the district, the better. And grow the party. Raise your hand if you want to grow the party. I think we're all in agreement there, right? We all agree our ideas are best to move us forward. We've made considerable strides in the last 4 years. Growing the party is very important. We need to invite other people to join into our ideas. I don't believe in the phrase low information vote. When I was elected alderman, I got 59% of the vote. I didn't knock on the door of the other 41% and tell them they were stupid. That was on me. I didn't get my message to them. That's part of what I see moving us forward is we need to get our message to those who aren't on our side now. Thank you.
Making Waukesha, making Wisconsin a great place to live, work, and retire starts with lower taxes and job promotion and helping small business and job creators do that. And if we can retain the next generation to work here, like good paying jobs and people that graduate from Marquette, UWM, Tech School, MSOE, when they stay in the community and work here, that helps everyone out. And when we keep people retiring here, that helps everyone out. It helps the family structure and continuity, and I think ultimately any sort of agenda that can keep the tax burden low on those folks so that Wisconsin and Waukesha remain a great place to live, work, and retire. I can say that probably I've done my job as an assembly person. That's how we head forward.
Now, we're not going to probably take, because of the time, a lot more. Maybe I'm hesitant to take even any more because although we have 5 minutes, it takes 10 minutes to do it. And so I think we're going to move on to the closing right away. I'm a big one, anybody who knows me, to get people out on time or early. We've all had busy days and a long day. And I did turn the cooling down for those of you who were freezing, so it didn't get quite as warm in here as we thought it would, but I did, just so you know. So I think we should give them a few seconds to gather their thoughts, although they're all prepared to. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to go? You want to get started? For the conclusion, you probably wrote it in advance, probably, or memorized it, or your 5 minute, your elevator speech or something. So why don't we just go right then to, and I apologize to those who wrote questions. We tried to incorporate some of them, and I think most of the topics that you did raise were discussed. And of course, you can talk to the candidates afterwards, too. We'll have time to do that. So with that, we'll move on to the closing statements, 2 minutes each. And Kathy, everybody's been behaving themselves pretty good tonight, aren't they? That's why we're 4 minutes ahead of schedule, so thank you. So, go.
Well, I'd like to, I guess to start out, I'd like to thank the Waukesha Republican Women for hosting this event. I think this is something that, as I knocked on doors, people have said, it's difficult to tell you all apart because we speak a lot of the same language. In the past week, I've walked just short of 50 miles of city houses ringing doorbells. And I realize that when I'm talking to those people, those are the families that I'm asking them to give me the opportunity, the honor to serve as their assembly person and represent them and their family in what is a very important piece in our state government. I did not seek, nor did I expect to get some of these big name endorsements. It's not the crowd that I have hung with over the past 5-10 years since I moved into the town here. I've hung out with the people of the community, and I sought their support, their endorsements. And that's the way I intend to continue to govern. I intend to be involved. I intend to be visible at Fox River Church, involved in the community here, accessible to you, with my cell phone number out on my website, which was pointed out by somebody that my website was the only one they could find my cell phone number on. I'm not afraid to put my information out there because I'm transparent. If you've got a question, you can ask it of me. We can talk about issues, we can talk about disagreements, but we should be able to talk about that, and we should be able to share information and arrive at better conclusions. And I think that's the core of good policy and a good servant, is to make sure that I'm listening and available to.
The choice is clear on August 12th. The voters have a choice between rhetoric or results. Governor Scott Walker is our Republican standard bearer in Wisconsin. You see, I have been a longtime supporter of Scott Walker. As early as 1997, I donated to Scott Walker when he was still in the legislature. I donated to Scott Walker when he ran for county executive in Milwaukee. And I donated to him when he ran for governor in 2010. And I stood by him again during the recall election in 2012. Not just donating money, but making hundreds of phone calls on his behalf. I still stand with Governor Scott Walker. Here we are now, just 2 short weeks away from a primary election where the Republican voters of the district will decide who will be their next representative to the state assembly. Remember, actions speak louder than words. All of my opponents say that they support Scott Walker, but I've actually done it. If you are curious, before you cast your vote, go to the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign website and find out who among us has actually supported Scott Walker. The question is, do you want your next representative to stand with Scott Walker or just talk about it?
The voters face a clear choice on August 12th, and they can vote for folks that have been in government in Waukesha for a while, or they can vote for a fresh start and help elect someone from the private sector. And that's been the campaign I've run, and I commit to finish strong on that message that lower taxes, job promotion, job creation are the things that are most important to the folks in the area. I donated my time to Scott Walker as well. I worked for him just 1 year doing healthcare policy at the state capitol. Enjoyed that time, served for him and with them, and enjoyed putting in my time to advance the conservative cause. I think at the end of the day, when you want a fresh start, you look at the ideas that people stand by, and I think when you look at the folks that know Waukesha best, that live here, and who they're supporting, and there's 6 great candidates in the race, as all of you know. You come from different teams, or maybe you came here not knowing who you're going to vote for. I ask you to check out my website. If you haven't already talked to me, I look forward to meeting you tonight. And consider me, I ask for your vote on August 12th. Karen and I, when we got married 5 years ago in Ripon, Wisconsin, the birthplace of the Republican Party, not because we have family there, but because I'm a lifelong Republican, so I dragged her up there and she let me come. We started a little Capitol tour up there. We went to the first Capitol together, and since we made a goal to do an all-state Capitol, we're a little over halfway done now, hoping to complete that soon. But I'd love to go on January 3rd and raise my hand in Madison and finish our 50th Capitol tour in Madison. And with your support, I think we can do it. So I'm asking for your vote on August 12th.
First, thank you for being here tonight, everybody. It's great to see so many people come out and care, because it also means you're going to vote. Voter turnout is incredibly important. Thank you for putting this on this evening. I want to talk about 3 issues briefly. One is local control. I'm one of the local leaders here who have earned the trust of voters in the 97th district. Everything we've talked about, from taxes to jobs and education, a lot of that is done, if not all of it is done, most effectively done in the local control realm. Second is jobs. Like I mentioned before, I uniquely see myself as having an active role as working here in the district the majority of the time, putting people to work, in contact with people who need workers. And the last issue is trust. We have a trust issue. If we do want to grow this party, we need to earn back the voters' trust. That's very important. We don't do that by electing the next person in line. We don't do that by electing based off who somebody fundraised for or who they gave money to. None of that really matters. I don't have allegiances to anybody. I don't owe anybody anything. The people I serve are God, my family, and the taxpayers. That's what I intend on doing for you.
I was the last one to get into this race. I got into this race to offer all of you a choice. I've been doing this for 15 years, and people have said to me, "You're a career politician." Well, I'm not. I've been a nonpartisan, as a county board supervisor. I would say, look at me as a representative for the last 15 years, somebody that's worked for you. Got into this race, like I said, to offer you all a choice. A proven track record of a dog park, initiating the contact with Johnson Controls to save the city of Waukesha $2 million. The elimination of the EOC person in 2005, which was going to be a $50,000 job, plus benefits, that now extrapolated to how many dollars? I understand what it means to do more with less. I've been doing it with my family for the last 39 years. We've had jobs. I've lost 7 jobs in 11 years. I feel your pain. I've had to make it work, like all moms have to make it work. And what I would say to you, if you want somebody that's going, I don't have the endorsements. I hope my endorsements are at the door. But I will tell you, I am the one that will go to Madison and work her damnedest for you. She will never give up. She will never give in. And she will make Walker proud. That's what I promise to you. And you're my endorsement. You're my endorsement. I am not one of the same old. Someone asked me this, as I said, is this a career? This is a vocation with me. This is my vocation. This is my passion. This is why I do it. To serve you. To be your elected representative. And I just want to make it better, and I have done that for the last 15 years. Thank you, and thank you, Women Republicans.
Looks like I get to go last year. Friends, thank you all again for being here this evening, and I'm sure that you will leave here more informed when you arrive. I've knocked on thousands and thousands of your doors in the past few months, and the question that I get asked the most is what makes you different than the other candidates. With 6 of us running and asking for your vote is a perfectly justifiable response. I deeply respect all of my opponents and anyone who runs for public office for that matter, and hope and expect that all of us have the best interests of this district at heart. This assembly seat is not just a mere political stepping stone, but is rather an opportunity to serve this community that we all love. My answer to that person at the door is that I am confident that my combination of experience and a fresh approach to problem solving make me the best candidate. I'm the only candidate in the race to have written bills and legislation in state government, and did so during an incredibly important time in Wisconsin's history, during Act 10. I can honestly say I'm the only candidate in the race that's had his way blocked to going into work by Jesse Jackson himself, so that should count for something. I will serve as a passionate advocate for this community that I was born in and cherished dearly. I do not need a GPS to get me around this district, and I do not need a tour of the state capitol after you elect me to be your next state Tonight, I ask you for your prayers, for your support, and for your vote on August 12th. Together, we will continue to ensure that Waukesha County is the best place in the world to live, own a business, and raise a family. Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much. Great job. Didn't they do a fabulous job?